there's just a ton of tech that we can be covering, from who's supporting small businesses to all the way through enterprise. And today I'm here with Sachin. So let's go ahead and get started. Sachin, I would love for you to first introduce yourself, and then we'll go into the Q&A.
So
You're welcome.
I'm Sachin Sharma. I'm the founder and CEO of ProcureDesk. So at ProcureDesk, I'm just kind of a little bit of my background. I've been in procurement space for I would say given around 20 years now. Started my career more on the vendor side, technology side, on Procure-to-Pay systems. Then acted as a practitioner for a couple of years, managed procurement teams and accounts payable teams. And one of the challenges I realized was, how hard it is to kind of manage these processes manually, and that kind of was the genesis of ProcureDesk. So at ProcureDesk, we focus on automating the purchasing and accounts payable processes for small to medium-sized companies. So we call them growing companies because they're going through a growth spur, and that is when their manual processes don't scale, and they have challenges with dealing with manual processes.
The first question you kind of a little bit already answered, but I would love to understand what the mission of ProcureDesk is day in and day out. What are you trying to achieve?
When you think about large enterprise companies, right, you always have people focus on a procurement function or accounts payable function and so on. And when you think about growing companies, there are always multiple people doing different things, right? So there's no focused attention on like this person is doing procurement and this person is AP. So the challenge becomes is how do you kind of manage your spend effectively so you can extend your, I would say, runway from whatever funding you have or capital you have in the beginning. So our mission is to, I would say, enable better spend management for growing companies so that they can be better, steward of the company funding, and then use a tool or technology like ours to kind of be more responsible around where they're spending and extend the cash runway.
So next question for you then is, why are you better than your competition? How do you differentiate yourself in the marketplace?
First of all, it's a very crowded marketplace. When we started, we thought small to medium-sized companies, there are not much available. But what we realized pretty quickly is there is two segments of the market right now. One segment is very lightweight solutions in terms of their main job is to kind of automate a manual form, right? So digitize the form, and that's where they start. And then you have I would say mid-market and enterprise companies where you are developing solutions for kind of focusing on scaling the operation and so on. So what we are trying to do with ProcureDesk is we are providing the, I would say, enterprise class functions within to a growing company, so they have the same set of, I would say, features, tools, available to them to help them spend effectively, right? So one of the things, for example, we have done is punch outs, as you know, is one of the best way to kind of, I would say, simplify the experience for your end users. There are some challenges along with it, but at a very high level, I mean, at least it provides better experience. So what we have done is, in our space, we don't see many punch outs, and also we have like close to 200 vendors where we are working today have punch outs enabled. So that has greatly simplified the experience for our customers. I would say that's number one. Number two is, you talk often about change management at a very large scale, right? And we see so similar challenges among our customers too. And what we have done here is to kind of help enable them through like better onboarding and so on. So, for a lot of our small, medium-sized customers, we offer free onboarding. We kind of walk them through. It's offer like a fully done for you service. So I would say, that's number two. And number three is agility in terms of, offering, having the speed and agility to kind of listen to the feedback, react to it, and solve the problems for our customers. So those are the three focus areas for us.
I love that you have pre-built punch-out catalogs. Like that's such a headache for companies to get done. So that's such a smart move, especially for the target market that you have. But even enterprises struggle with it. So very, very smart move right there. Okay, well, we've talked a little bit about target market, obviously being small, medium-sized companies that are on a growth path, but can you go into a little bit more detail around your particular target market?
Customers come to us when they are kind of, I think, gone through what we call our level one phase of maturity, which is credit cards, right? So, in the beginning, everybody has a credit card, swipe it up, and everything is fine. And at some point, somebody realized and said, hey, we need better control over our spending. We can't be waiting for a credit card statement to show up, right? And say, oh, we spent this much. So that is where I would say a need for a procurement system starts, generally in the 20 to 30 employees range. And revenue typically is, under 10 million. You're kind of starting from there. And we'll go up to, 200-ish employees, So I would say revenue in the range of 10 to, 150 to 200 million is where we kind of play right now. We do have large customers, but those are kind of on the extreme of it. So I would say we have very small customers, very large customers, but majority of the chunk is that I would say 20 to 200 employees range.
Okay.
And in terms of whom are we working with, believe it or not, in the beginning, there's no procurement department. There's somebody else who's playing that role. So somebody who identified that as an issue, and that could be a controller in the company, that could be a fractional CFO or like an accounting manager, or sometimes owners too, because they're looking to better spend their money.
Okay, and I'm assuming that most of your clients are here in the United States, or is it North America based? Can you give us a little bit more information about location?
Majority is North America, between the United States and Canada. We do have some global clients, so
Okay.
Some in Australia, some in UK. So it's kind of all over. So we could say like,
Okay, perfect.
but we try to focus mostly in US.
How do you price? And of course, I'm not looking for like a price, but how do you generally go to market and price your product?
At a very high level, we wanted to keep the pricing simple, right? So we put it on our website. I think that's, it couldn't be simpler than that, right? And what we do is we kind of provide like some core packages to start with. So many companies can just get started with it, right? Basically, it's a platform fee based on what functionality they want, right? In the Procure-to-Pay to whether they're just looking to solve the procurement automation problem, like the requisition purchase orders, or they want to do full payment to or AP automation in there too. So those are the two packages. So like most of our packages start with like a 10 users. It's like, okay, get started. So, and then you can just, customize it based on that need. So it's a user-based model. We don't charge customers on, okay, you need a punch out, here's the cost, you need 10 punch outs, here's the cost. So it's pretty all inclusive. We wanted to keep it simple for them to plan their expenses. And it's a simple user-based model. So like how many users or light seats you need, and then we price it based on that.
So this is a little bit of a crystal ball type of a question, but why should we be excited about where you're going? Can you share a little bit about the vision for ProcureDesk?
One, overall, we're super excited with the mission of making procurement and AP simpler for these mid-market or small to medium-sized companies. I would say not mid-market. So with that mission, I think we are always looking at opportunities to simplify the process, technology and implementation and so on. So definitely that is one focus in terms of how do we make it simple? How do we do it faster so that they can get the value faster, right? So in enterprise, it's probably okay to wait for a year for a B2B solution to be live. in a small to medium-sized company, right? It's kind of hard, like so. That is one area where we are always looking for how do we can do it cheaper, faster, so we can deliver that value. Having said that, I think there are some opportunities which we are really excited about. One is the I would say partnership opportunities where we are working with a lot of marketplaces in specific niche areas. So for example, biotech might be one example where there are marketplaces who only deal with biotech vendors. And so we're building those experiences within ProcureDesk so that customers can avail value from that. So I think that's number one. Number two is, everybody's talking about AI, and we are looking at, what are the opportunities there. I think two areas which we are really excited about and trying to kind of build that in our roadmap. Number one is generative AI on the requisition side. So it's great to have intake forms, right, where somebody can go in, pick what they want to buy. But you still have that resistance of, okay, I need to fill all this information. Yes, granted, you can make it simpler with punch outs and things like that. But we feel like, okay, you could go to a, kind of a chat GPT like experience and say, I need this. And system can ask and say, what else, right? So if somebody says, I need a laptop, then, what do you need for, right? So the old category forms, intake forms, you kind of use generative AI for that. That's one area we are super focused on and trying to see what we could do there. And two is on the AP side, I think there is a lot of room in terms of AP automation, coding of invoices and so on, and matching a little bit more, I would say, automated.
Can you tell us a little bit about a success story to highlight or share with us one of your clients and showcase how you provided value to them?
We worked with a biotech company recently where the CFO kind of called us and said, "Hey, we need help." And when we started working with them, their biggest challenge was they are, as a biotech, right? When you go through a drug discovery process, there are different stages in that. You might have your in-house research team that's actually doing the research and all, or you might outsource completely, your trials and research and so on. And the challenge then becomes is how much are you spending on each experiment? So that tomorrow, if you have to figure it out, like how many experiments I'm going to run, I need to know my cash burn rate, right? Because nobody bootstrap a biotech. You have to raise funding to keep running the discovery process. So the challenge was they were managing everything in a spreadsheet. And like when I looked at the spreadsheet, I was like, geez, like how are you even managing it? There are three people doing just that, like entering data in a spreadsheet line by line, and then when the invoice comes in, you have to go and figure out which line the invoice was for, which milestone we paid, and so on. And I said, okay, great. I mean, it's but what is the kind of drawback for you? Like, what he said, like, okay, all this is great. Like, but when my chief scientific officer comes and asks me and said, how much should we spend on each experiment? Half of the time, my data is not correct because somebody forgot to update the spreadsheet. So I'm mentioning this case study is more in terms of we always think about technology and automation and all, but that is the end goal, right? Is to make decisions faster and more confidently, I would say, right?
Yeah.
So after we implemented that, we were just chatting and said, what his experience has been, and obviously they went through a change management experience, right? In terms of why do you need to use a system, but he said like now we have one central place to kind of go look at all the information. I don't have to go chase spreadsheets. They in fact manage everything without hiring additional headcount. So they were planning to
Wow.
hire two more headcounts. So they said, okay, no, we in fact they went down after that. So yeah, so that's how they kind of went from like a very manual purchasing process to like a fully automated process, and more important, visibility for them to make better decisions.
Can you tell us about a common mistake that leaders make when either they're looking for a solution like yours or implementing a solution like yours so we can avoid that for our listeners here today?
There's no standard purchasing policy which many companies have. And what they try to do is they try to implement a system before they can actually have a proper policy, right? So it is a lot of times when we see is, okay, I want to automate my system. Okay, great. What is the process? People do it X, Y, Z. Have you looked into how to streamline the process first? So the mistake is not streamlining the process before you automate, because when you have that conversation with your team, even though if there are 10 people, it
Mhm.
brings out any I would say adverse reaction or friction in the process. And when you ask those questions, you can remove that friction first and say, okay, why are we doing what we're doing? Let's have that awareness. And then a tool is just a way to kind of automate the process. So get that done before you do the tool. I think it'll go a long way. At a very high level, one of the reasons why you do is or implement a system like ProcureDesk is get a better control over your spending. So the way we kind of manage this is we provide a detailed budget which companies can set up. Either we are importing those budgets from their accounting systems, like if they're using something like QuickBooks or Zero, or we work with close to 5 or 6 companies now or systems now. So at a very high level, you can just see how are you trending month over month, how much you have spent till date. You can actually go within a budget. So if you're a budget owner, you are able to see exactly where you're spending money and so on. And then for each month, what is the forecast versus the actual? This is probably in a demo you will see forecast that high and actuals that low, but it just kind of gives you ability. And you can also see how much of the spend is being reviewed, so we call it blocked amount. Now the second question, which if you're a budget owner you're looking for, is where did the money go? Who spent the money, right? So we kind of show you in a snapshot in terms of, okay, what are the different requests that were processed against this budget? What are the different purchase order invoices and even expenses? So if you have credit card expenses that you're processing, you can easily tag it to a budget. So these are the visibility for budget owners. Now, in terms of the overall reporting wise, system kind of has an inbuilt dashboard for reporting. So if, mostly if you're like a budget owner or for that matter, CFO, you can look at your overall spending like this here. So, what are you spending by in different categories? So what are you buying? Who's buying? And from where are you buying, right? So we're top vendors. You can look at the spend by GL breakup and so on. You can look at your month to month trending. So from a forecast standpoint, this is important for growing companies, is to understand the last 12 months of like what is our committed spend looks like, and what are the kind of future spending looks like. You can track by department. As you grow, you can start looking at your payment terms too, in terms of how are you spending, and maybe if there's an opportunity to extend the payment terms and so on. Budget versus actual at a high level, and then each department how you're doing on a budget basis, right? So this is more designed for getting a, I would say, a glance at how are you spending. Now, one of the problem which we see with growing companies is when you implement a system like that, you're doing that to measure the efficient or improve the efficiency of your process. But how you know whether your process is efficient or not? This is where the cycle time reports comes into picture. So this dashboard is more designed for understanding how efficient your current process is. So think about here your ability to kind of see how much, like for example, 99, almost 99% of my purchase requests are getting approved within 24 hours. So that is great. But looks like some of them are sitting, for 72 hours and so on. So this is an opportunity for you to kind of look into more information. You can drill down into the data and see which requests are not getting approved. Is it just one person who is making the whole process slower, or is it we designed the process in the wrong way? Maybe we have too many approvals, and so on, right? So you can also see how long a PO it takes for PO to be processed, invoice approval cycle times, and so on. So that this is more designed for efficiency of the process. We also let you know who is doing most of the approvals and where you might have a bottleneck. So, for example, Mark here has almost 19% of the approval cycle times where there is a problem. So you might want to reach out to Mark and see how you can extend a helping hand and figure things out and simplify the process. You also have an operation dashboard, which is again, you're tracking the efficiency of end-to-end process, but this is more into like, for example, what is going on in the system. So for example, you have orders that are invoiced, but they're not received. So that means there are people who are in the organization who are not creating receipts against that, right? Or for example, there are invoices pending approval. You can see the cycle time. So if there are invoices that are pending approval for more than 14 days, let's look into what's going on. So all that is designed to kind of more from an efficiency standpoint. Reporting wise, there are built-in reports on what's going on with the system. So for example, this is an accrual report on what's received but not invoiced. So these are designed more from a AP team standpoint. If they want to just have standard reports to run accruals and all, you can just click on a report. It gives you all the details you need from a reporting standpoint. Or let's say you're in procurement and you want to see spend over like last 12 months. What are we doing? How, with whom are we spending month over month? It's just simple report. All the reports are filterable. You can export them. You can schedule them. You can even create your custom reports here. So this is just makes it super easy to pull all the information you need. So this is more on the reporting side. Now I'm going to go back to how end users interact with the system. So right now I'm on a purchase request dashboard where you can see if you're an individual an employee, you can see all the requests you have created. You can easily track the life cycle of what's going on with your purchases, right? So for example, here I can see I have 42 items that are waiting on approval. Okay, let's see what's going on. All right, it's pending with Mark. I can quickly click on this bell icon, send a reminder. Is as easy as that. So now, let's say if I want to start buying something or put a request in, it's very simple. Click on this button here, and the system takes you to a information here. Ask for a couple of things on what you want to do. So as I said in before, we made it super easy for end users to kind of add what they're looking to buy. punch outs being one of them. This is some of the examples of those punch outs. So we have close to 200-ish vendors where we have punch outs. In some cases, we have even built plugins for where we can pick up a card from any website. So that helps us to extend the functionality or punch out like functionality when a punch out is actually not available. So that's one. You also have the capability to build in like catalogs. So here you can see all the details here. This is a catalog you built, and user can pick up, add it to the shopping cart like that. Or let's say we'll go to Amazon, for example, for buying something. It's all linked behind the scene. So if you have a business account, that is all you need to go and make the purchase. Let's say I want to buy this monitor. It keeps the process simple. So for an end user standpoint, they are used to going to Amazon and buying. They're not actually doing anything new. And the benefit of this is you have your cost control process built in. So when you go to the final step here, let's say to checkout, instead of saying, uh, you know, go ahead and buy, you have to submit it for approval. So that is the built-in control of punch outs. And as I said, we have close to 200 of them. Now, the other piece here is the approvals. So the end users don't have to worry about selecting the approvers. We have a very strong workflow engine behind the scene, which can route the request for approval to pretty much any way you want, right? So it could be based on a chart of account. It could be based on whether, let's say a procurement team wants to only see non-catalog purchases. You can see that too. Or for that matter, going to like a CFO or a CEO based on the amount. Those sort of rules you can set up. We support up to 15 levels of workflows, so we haven't seen anybody going over 6 till now, but we might be surprised. So also in terms of the where the cost is booked from a chart of account standpoint, or cost centers and so on, we integrated with the accounting systems, like for example, I said before, Xero, QuickBooks, Sage Intacct, NetSuite, Microsoft Business Central. We integrated with all of them. So what that means is we can pull all your data in terms of chart of accounts, list of suppliers to get you started, or any other cost center elements you might have. So all that can be brought in. We have rules that you can use to automatically code the transaction. So if supplier is Amazon and code it to chart of account office expense, for example, that can be very easily done in the system. You also have the ability to link it to budgets. So if you have budgets that you either upload through a spreadsheet, or you just pull it from an accounting system, once you have budget in the system can check against the selected budget and see what's available, what's requested, and what's available after the purchase, right? So really what it does is it's built-in cost control, because people can't go over budget. Obviously, you can configure scenarios where you want them to go over budget for whatever reason. But the main thing is it avoids those awkward conversations where somebody went over budget and you close the books, and then you're saying, hey, so and so, you went over budget. Let's have a conversation on how do you bring you back and so on. But this is kind of proactive, right? Prevention, and just go for it if you can. Everything else we have just tucked it into this additional information. So if you see the form, really, just select the item, put in a description of what you're looking, why you're buying. So this is could be supplies for my office, and that's it, right? And then you just submit for approval. So this is what you do from a request standpoint. And then once the request is submitted, you will be able to track the status of it. As far as the approvals are concerned, you can end users can do approvals or multiple ways. There's a mobile app for approval. In fact, our mobile app can be used for creating purchase requests too. So you can create a purchase request right from the app itself, or do the approvals. You can do approvals from email. We made it super easy. There's a link at the bottom of the email to approve or reject, and you don't even have to log into the system to do the approval. So all that is that simple. As if you are an approver, you can also have your own spend dashboard. So the idea here is that I don't have to go to finance to ask for where am I spending money and so on, right? So it's all right here. You can see month over month track. Who are my top vendors? Where in the budget I'm, who's spending my budget, and who are the top buyers? All that in one single snapshot. Alrighty. So we talked about request and approval. Let's quickly talk about purchase orders. There is complete automation in the system to generate purchase orders. You don't have to worry about manually generating purchase order and sending it out to a vendor. System does that for you. Or if you have a large, like a buying team and so on, there is a special buyer view that we have designed. So think about it as a buyer desk where buyers can see all the requests that are coming from different requesters for different vendors. And you can use this opportunity to maybe combine the multiple requests into a single purchase order. Maybe you want to leverage your volume discounts, or maybe you want to save on shipping cost. All that can be managed. So this is more designed for companies who like where there's a person who is playing the role of a buyer. But if that is not the case, use the automation within the system to automatically generate the purchase order and send it out. Right now, we built a lot of advanced features for tracking the purchase order because sending the purchase order to the supplier is the first step. We just generate the PDF, or if it is a punch out vendor, it's all electronic. We use CXML for purchase orders and so on. But the main thing is, okay, what happens after that? So we have built in an acknowledgement feature where you can ask the vendor to go to a portal and acknowledge the purchase order. They can give you shipping dates and when they're going to plan to ship it. So that's number one. Number two is when the product is actually shipped, we do allow vendors to create ASNs or advanced ship notice within the system. And the way that works is they give you just a simple tracking number that can come in within the application. And then as and when the tracking data gets available, we will populate the status of it. So you can actually track where your product is. And if you order something like for which you need to know like where exactly it is and you're not in front of your desk, don't worry about it. System send you a notification when the product is delivered. So you'll come to know when it is delivered. And the delivered status is where you are kind of tracking a what's called a receipt, right? So let's open this purchase order, which is received here. And when you open a purchase order, you can see everything in a snapshot, everything that is tied to that PO. So I can see that it came from this request. Here is the receipt. I can open it up here and then see the receipt. So this is the good receipt note. I can attach a packing slip, confirm the quantity that is received. You can create as many receipts as you want against a single purchase order. This can be done from the mobile app too. So that's the receipt functionality. Let's talk about quickly around invoices. So the three-way match process is built in. We do have a lot of automation around how we pull the invoice data into the system. So we use, you can, if you have like a central email, we can pull it from there. We do support e-invoicing, so CXML-based invoices. So we have a lot of our vendors can either use vendor portal or use CXML invoicing for submitting their own invoice. And once the invoice comes in, we run it through a OCR process and kind of extract the information from the invoice, and then it is matched automatically for you. So a matching process is as simple as looking at what you ordered, what was received, what was invoiced, what was the price at which you ordered, and what was the price that was received. Of course, there are things around shipping and taxes which you want to kind of avoid in the matching process because you're going to pay the shipping and taxes anyways. But this helps to identify any discrepancy in the process.
Was really excited to hear from Sachin and write down some of my ideas that I had around 3 things that I loved and 3 things that I don't quite love yet. So first off, I think it's super smart as my number one that they are proactively integrating punch out catalogs, especially for their target market. But even like I mentioned in enterprise organizations, this is a heavy lift during implementation, post implementation to get your punch out catalogs there. When you do have punch out catalogs, it really simplifies the purchasing process so much. Huge benefit to the end user experience there. So I love how they're proactively integrating those catalogs. The second one is related to budget. I noticed throughout the entire demo and the commentary that there was a real focus on budget. And I think that's not only cool from a tech standpoint, because not all of these procure tech solutions out there, particularly in the procure-to-pay space, really have a focus on budget and budget management. But I think it's really also very smart for their target market. If they're high growth companies that are trying to manage every dollar that they have coming in the door as a strategic investment that they're making into the business, I think it's really it probably was from listening to their customers, because such an important aspect of running those companies is to manage your budget very closely, and not only manage it, but maybe be proactive about the choices that you're making. So really loved that. Also loved the cycle time efficiency look that we got as part of number 2. I'm going to combo platter that one. Both of those are super important for a high growth business. The third one that I thought was super intriguing was the PO management aspect of what they inherently built into the PO solution, or their Procure-to-Pay solution. So PO management is so painful, and that's where a lot of the inefficiencies come from in your Procure-to-Pay process. So having visibility to when things are getting shipped, being able to really manage that PO in the system itself instead of reverting back to email, is really critical for this process to work. It is also critical for removing a lot of the back end cycle time issues like invoice issues, et cetera. But then it also gives visibility from an organizational standpoint on maybe inventory levels and cash flow positions, et cetera. So huge benefit to have that PO management piece built into the system. So those were the 3 things I liked: the built-in punch outs, the budget and / cycle time focus of their reporting, and really a lot of the capability throughout the system, and then the PO management solution that you saw in the demo. Okay, so 3 things that I don't quite love yet. And some of this was actually mentioned in Sajin's commentary about where they're going, but I think it's important to point out, I really appreciated him starting with the dashboards, but I think there's something missing on those dashboards that would be super cool to have, and that's benchmarking. As a provider in this space that has several clients, you're gathering information around, how quickly should people be approving purchase orders, or how many PO changes should we be having? What does this cycle time look like on average within your client base? I think that would be really, really interesting. If I think about organizations that are being targeted with this solution, they might not have a procurement organization. They might not have a lot of maturity in the Procure-to-Pay space. So they frankly just might not know how quickly things should be happening compared to others. So a benchmarking aspect of not only providing them the insights, but where they should be, would be super, super awesome to have. AI requisitioning, this was the piece that was mentioned on maybe their future vision, especially if you have an organization that you're multi-hatting, like you might not have a lot of time to do requisitioning. You need to go on to the 30 other things that are on your list. Simplifying that requisitioning process as much as possible and leveraging Gen AI, I think, is going to be a really, really smart move for them. And it seems like it's already on their roadmap. The last thing that I'm going to point out, and this has to do with insights versus data. So we saw a lot of great budget functionality in there, and like who's spending the money and how it's been spent thus far. I think it would be really, really awesome, based off of the data that they have, to provide some forecasting on what to expect. So if you keep up this type of spending, or if this is a reoccurring spend, we know that this is going to now be in the forecast. So people, let's just say mid-year, can see if they're going to be going above budget by the end of the year. I think would be really useful for these clients that you're targeting to have. So anyway, those are the 3 things that I don't quite love yet, but maybe if you do interact with ProcureDesk, maybe those are going to be functionalities that are coming out in the near future. So with that said, I am Amanda Prochaska. I am the Chief Wonder Officer and founder of Wonder Services. We love bringing this content to you because we get questions all the time about all the different procure techs out there. And we're like, hey, you know what? Let's offer this as a part of value, as part of your research process. If you loved what you saw today, or you want to explore more, there will be a link to our website below where we can help facilitate a conversation with ProcureDesk. We could also just help you in general figure out what you want to do in this space, how to create a roadmap. And then if you've already selected a solution and you just need people to adopt it more effectively, we're here for you for that too.